Hello! In this video, using what-if scenarios, I'll show you how you can test production site capacity against increased demand in any logistics, and decide whether you need to expand your site or build a new one. In the map, you can see a supply chain we're going to analyze. Here, we have a factory in Hong Kong that supplies distribution centers in Japan, Europe, and South America, and these distribution centers supply the final customers. We'll call this supply chain configuration a scenario. The next configuration is the same scenario, with the addition of the US supply chain with a number of customers and DCs. Due to this, our factory will experience some additional workload. We want to understand if this is enough to use this factory for the expanded supply chain, or if we would need additional production capacity. I've created simulation experiments for both scenarios that will gather various supply chain statistics. We will mostly be interested in profit and loss statements and service levels. Also, we'll take a look at DC capacity statistics and total amount shipped by the factory. Let's run the first simulation. In a simulation experiment, you can observe supply chain dynamics in any moment of the simulated time. The purple dots signify deliveries here, and the statistics are updated live. And the simulation is over. Let's check the statistics. As you see, we have earnings of about $40 million. Here's the amount of products shipped by the factory. The service level is quite high, with an average service level of 0.95 and a minimum of 0.8. As you can see in this plot, total ordered product and total shipped product amounts match almost all the time, which means the factory has enough capacity to fulfill all demand. Now, let's run the second simulation, which includes the US supply chain added to our global network. Let's speed it up to the maximum. Now we see that the service level is not as good as it was in the previous scenario. It's dramatically falling, and we can find that factory performance is insufficient, as the number of shipped products is significantly lower than the total ordered products amount. It's clear that, with the existing capacity, this factory alone cannot handle the demand from the supply chain that includes the US. We can also check the total product shipped statistics and compare it with the previous simulation. While it's clear that one factory is not enough, perhaps analyzing total shipped statistics will help us to understand the maximum utilization of the factory. In the first simulation, the factory produced less, which indicates it still had capacity to fulfill additional orders. But in the second scenario, the expanded supply chain was too large, and even with increased performance and maximum produced amount, the factory was not capable to meet all the demand. So, to see if we could change it, I've created an alternative what-if scenario where we have an additional factory in China to fulfill these extra orders from the US part of the supply chain. Let's run this model and check if we could supply enough with 2 manufacturing sites. We begin to see that with the second factory, the service level is returning to its high levels, with the average service level at 0.97. The amounts of shipped products and ordered products match like they did in the first scenario, which means that 2 factories are sufficient for our larger supply chain. The Capacity tab may help us understand bottlenecks in the other parts of the supply chain, in case if the factory didn't cause the decrease of the service level. So, we can see that in the second scenario, with one factory and the increased demand, the distribution centers are almost empty, which validates that the bottleneck was at the production level. We can tell this because DC inventory levels are almost the same in the base scenario without the US and in the third scenario with the US market and the 2 factories. In the same way, we could test the scenario with, for instance, the existing production site's capacity extension to compare cost of site expansion and new site opening to come to the most profitable decision. Any logistics allows you to test any assumption with a what-if scenario by making quick changes to your supply chain model. Thank you for watching this video. If you wish to use any logistics to solve your supply chain challenges, feel free to contact us by email.